Yo everyone, welcome to my predictions and breakdown of the entire UFC Fight Night Dolidze vs Hernandez fight card. Sorry for the later video again, but I have been quite busy unfortunately with work and a few other things, but we are here now for UFC Vegas 109 to spot some solid opportunities for underdogs and bets in general. So we're back on the grind, guys. As you'll see from this video, I might be expecting quite a few finishes on this card because of some of the matchups. But before we get into the video, however, let's quickly recap the last UFC card and talk about our channel results as well for UFC Vegas 108 Tyra vs Park. I'll quickly recap what I thought about the card, but I'll mainly be talking about the co-main event and main event here, so this won't take long, guys, I promise. If you do want to skip this though at all and just get into my predictions, timestamps will be in the description and the comment section below. I honestly thought that the card overall was pretty decent though. It had a decent amount of finishes, and two fights that didn't even have finishes in them were still amazing. Those fights were Elvis Brenner versus Esteban Ribovic and Mateusz Rebecki versus Chris Duncan. I'll actually start off with that co-main event as a speaking point before I talk about the main event. Mateusz Rebecki, I love you, brother. Please, for the love of God though, take care of your health. The dude has taken an ungodly amount of damage in his last two fights and needs some time off, in my opinion. Chris Duncan does win this fight as the underdog, and personally, watching the fight live, I don't know how you guys felt about it. Let me know in the comments below. I might need to rewatch the fight, but I actually thought that Rebecki should have won this fight. I don't know if that's a crazy unpopular take or opinion, but I thought he did enough to get the win. By the way though, whoever the judge was who scored the fight a 30-27 for Chris Duncan, bro, drug test this guy because he's smoking crack. It's a pretty egregious scorecard. I couldn't believe it when it was called out. Round 1 was clear as day, Rebecki in my opinion. I thought round 2 went to Chris Duncan as well, pretty confidently. I thought round 3 was the decider, and I remember Chris Duncan starting off pretty solidly in that first minute and 30 of that round, looking really good, but as soon as it passed that minute 30 or 2 minutes of that round, Rebecki started taking over for me and landed way more devastating and impactful strikes throughout that round. He did so much damage to Chris Duncan, and you could see it visibly on Chris Duncan's face. It was a very close fight though, and much love to both guys though, but that is my opinion for that fight. It was a fight of the year contender though. Very nice fight to watch. As for the main event, Tyra is just too good, guys. His boxing and his ability to land that right hand looked better than ever, and his grappling, like I've already said many times now, is literally the best in the division, maybe just behind Pantoja for me. He's that good. Wish they both were fully prepared for this fight though. It sucks that Park had to come in on short notice and risk his undefeated record in a fight like this, but it is what it is, guys. Quick main event for Tyra. Maybe give him someone like Moreno next potentially. I think that would be a good fight. Anyways, that is now the card breakdown done. In regards to my results on the card though, for whoever is curious, I think I went 9-3 on picks, which I'm very happy with. And in terms of my betting guide results, I'll put them up on the screen for you guys now, just so you guys can see. We just were under making profit this time around. Under half a unit down, I believe. It was close to half a unit. I think it was a little bit less maybe. But it was just unfortunate, guys. We were close to making a profit. If Zaleski dos Santos or Rebecki had won, they would have cashed quite decent for me in the parlays I had them in. Our confident picks list as a parlay did cash though, which is always good to see. Should probably start risking maybe a little bit more on that, maybe half a unit more, like a unit and a half, maybe even 2 units. But anyways, guys, I've recapped the card and channel results as well. We are now here for UFC Fight Night, Dolidze vs Hernandez, and we are looking to destroy this next card on picks and on bets. So stay tuned in this video for all the fighter info I'm going to be laying out for you guys here. I will be posting the full card betting guide for you guys later on this week when the bet lines are fully out, so you guys can see all the bets I'm thinking about for this card. And if you want to be a part of the betting guide by becoming the subscribers bet of the week, please go into the comment section below and let me know what your favorite bets are for this card, and I will be taking one person's bet to add to the betting guide for this week. This bet may be one specific bet that I like, or even the top comment with the most likes on the video. If you think you've got a solid bet in mind, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Anyways, guys, to finally jump into the video, I'll be starting with the prelims and working my way all the way to the main event. timestamps are in the description and the comment section below if you'd like to skip to any fight in particular. We're going to be starting with the first fight of the card, which is Gabriella Fernandes versus Julija Stoliarenko. And see, this fight feels like a bit of a no-brainer pick for me, but you never really know sometimes with WMMA fights in general how they're going to turn out, and this is quite the clash of styles in general. Gabriella Fernandes should be the majority of people's picks between the two here, and I will be doing the same for this fight. Gabriella is strong, and she should be the far better striker here. Julija Stoliarenko really doesn't have much of anything to show on the feet in my opinion, and her main game plan in this fight will be to smother, clinch up, and get this fight to the ground so she can work her submission game to end this fight. The problem with picking Gabriella Fernandes is that she has shown in multiple fights, especially in her recent 2 losses to Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Jasudavicius, she can be taken down and she can be controlled and battered on the ground for a good amount of time in her fights. She doesn't get back up easily, but her initial takedown defense isn't actually that terrible. But the reason why I am still trusting in her to win this fight over Julija is because Julija isn't the best pure wrestler in my opinion. I think she's going to struggle hard to get the takedown in this fight, and pretty much that will be the story of this fight until she ends up losing by decision. I think she's going to have that advantage on the ground when it comes to the submissions, but she's just got no hands in my opinion. She's got no danger level on the feet, and then she isn't also the greatest wrestler, so I don't see her securing those takedowns versus Gabriella Fernandes. If she does try to take down Gabriella Fernandes, it'll probably be by getting her close to the fence, clinching up, and then dragging her down to the ground. Gabriella Fernandes is the pick, guys. I'm going to say she wins by decision just by doing more damage in each of the rounds on the feet. 30-27 or 29-28 decision win, that's my pick. Moving on to Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urdina. And you see, guys, my instinct or initial want is to just go with the pick Uros Medic here as a favorite as well, but I just don't know, guys. He's coming off a pretty brutal KO against Punahele Soriano, but then again, Gilbert Urdina is coming off his own KO loss against Charles Radke, but at least that was like, I believe it was like a year and a half ago now, plenty of time to recover for him. But man, something really wants me to go with Gilbert Urdina here because of that grappling advantage, but I just do think I will still end up edging my pick towards Uros Medic here, mainly because of his overall activity as a fighter and his striking advantage on the feet. I probably would have liked a little more time off to recover from that sort of KO, but 6 months isn't insanely short of a recovery time. Gilbert Urdina seems to really fight like once every year and a half recently himself, so he's had too much of time off in my opinion. I think he may have been injured because I believe he was meant to face Mike Mallet sometime in July of last year, but it did fizzle out, so now he's returning over a year and a half later against Uros Medic. I don't like it, guys. On paper, because of the skill sets, I do think the fight is a lot closer than the odds say, because Uros, I don't believe, has the ground game and could potentially just get taken down and controlled on the ground in this fight, but he is just the cleaner striker, more dangerous striker in general, and normally he's usually pretty decent defensively on the feet, and Urdina does cop quite a bit of punishment. I don't know, guys. It's a bit of an awkward pick for me, but I do believe I will go with Uros Medic in this one, maybe by decision win 29-28, but it's a close one, guys. I wouldn't sleep on Gilbert Urdina. Moving on to Joselyne Edwards versus Priscila Cachoeira, and I don't know about you guys, but I've been picking Joselyne Edwards to win a lot of her fights recently. I think the only one I didn't pick her in was in her Eileen Perez matchup, which was correct, by the way. Eileen Perez did beat her, but I think Joselyne Edwards is one of the more technical and well-rounded girls in the bantamweight division, and I feel like a lot of people aren't as confident in her as I'm about to be in her new matchup against Priscila Cachoeira. Not only am I picking Joselyne Edwards to win this fight, I am actually going to put her in my confident picks list as well. That's how confident I am in her to get this job done in this fight. Priscila's best chance, in my opinion, will be to make this fight incredibly dirty, bum rush at times, and try to land some massive shots in the clinch to finish Joselyne Edwards by KO. But I just don't see it happening, guys. Joselyne Edwards is so good at range, she hits relatively hard herself, and even if Priscila Cachoeira manages to close the distance and she starts clinching up, I could see her switching it up and trying to take her down and work her own ground game against Priscila Cachoeira in this fight. Whether she wants to strike or wrestle, I think she will have success anywhere this fight will go. Priscila is powerful, but she gets hit way too much for me. She takes way too much damage, and she will slow down as the fight goes on. Priscila also took this fight on around 5 weeks notice, so not even a full training camp either for her, so I expect her cardio to look even worse than it normally would. So I'm going to go with Joselyne Edwards by decision or KO by ground and pound as my pick for this fight personally. I feel pretty confident in this one, guys. Moving on to Elijah Smith versus Toshiomi Kazama. And you know, guys, I think Toshiomi Kazama, unfortunately, many people would probably have seen him firstly, like I did, in his fight against Rinya Nakamura, which was an absolute vicious KO in the UFC. It was a first round crazy brawl. One of them was bound to go down, and that person to go down was Toshiomi Kazama. And I think I'm actually going to be putting another person into my confident picks list in Elijah Smith to win this fight. I think in terms of styles, skill set, raw power, this is as bad as it could get for Kazama. Elijah Smith hits hard on the feet. He's quite technical as well. He's got incredible wrestling. He showcased in his fight with Vince Morales that not only does he have that fantastic wrestling, but he can escape these nasty submission attempts while he's securing the takedowns. He's not going to be able to get snatched up and submitted quickly like a lot of guys would. I don't personally think he's going to have to worry too much even about that in this fight anyway. I think Elijah Smith wins this one by KO sometime in the first 2 rounds. Kazama just gets hit way too much for me, guys, by power punches too. Every loss I've seen of his has been a pretty brutal KO as well. Not just the one against Rinya Nakamura, guys. Garrett Armfield put him away very easily, and even in his submission win against Grigoriou, that fight could have arguably been stopped for me when Grigoriou landed the massive shot on the feet and was ground and pounding him with massive elbows, bouncing his head off the canvas. The guy's relatively talented in the grappling, but in a matchup where he won't be able to use that grappling, at least in my opinion, I think he's lost this fight almost guaranteed. Elijah Smith by KO in the first 2 rounds. That's my pick. We move on to Cody Brundage versus Eryk McConico. And now this fight was literally just announced as I was writing the script for this video sometime around yesterday. I don't know where this fight is going to be placed on this card, so I've just put this fight in a couple of fights before the main card. It's a very interesting last minute fight to add onto the card, honestly. I guess they just wanted one more fight to put on the card. But I do expect Cody Brundage will be the favorite over Eryk McConico just due to the fact of UFC experience. Like, I think he has that UFC experience over McConico, and how McConico did just lose by knockout in a pretty one-sided UFC debut against Sultan Ruzaboyev. But honestly, guys, I think I'm going to go with Eryk McConico, and like I said, I expect he will be the underdog going into this fight. But I do think he's quite actually solid on the feet. He's got pretty decent cardio, and he's got good volume. He also has a very nice high kick, which I like a lot, and I think that alone will be enough to give Cody Brundage some problems in their fight together. McConico is a decent wrestler himself, and I think this fight is going to end up being a majority stand-up fight, and I'd honestly give that technical edge to Eryk McConico. This might end up being a pretty out there pick, depending on what the odds end up coming out as, but I just think the dude moves pretty well in his feet, and debuting against someone like Sultan Ruzaboyev is just a recipe for disaster. I honestly think Ruzaboyev would KO Cody Brundage inside 2 rounds as well, so if that means anything for what it's worth, guys, he's a very high-level opponent. Going with a relatively new addition to the UFC in Eryk McConico here. On the feet, I think he should be able to make this fight go his way. If anything does flip the script for Cody Brundage in this fight, I think it would be the grappling potentially. Moving on to Julius Walker versus Rafael Cerqueira. And now, at this point, guys, I don't even know why Rafael Cerqueira is still in the UFC. I've watched this guy in his first and only 2 UFC fights pretty much not throw much at all. Then when he does get hit, completely back up towards the fence, not move his feet at all, don't go lateral at all, and then proceed to get KO'd standing. That's all I've seen from this guy in the UFC. Absolutely abysmal transfer of talent and skill from his performances from the regional scene. You literally couldn't stop this guy from getting the knockout on the regional scene. When you look at his technique and his individual attributes, you think, man, this guy, he looks slick on the feet and he's got solid technique. But it just doesn't seem to transfer into the UFC performances. I don't know why, and at least Julius Walker is someone that you could see in his short notice debut against Alonzo Menifield is a dude that has a game plan and is willing to eat shots to give his own and give us an entertaining fight. Seeing that fight against Alonzo Menefield, knowing he's going to pressure forward and knowing he should have the grappling advantage by far in this matchup, I am going to go with Julius Walker to get it done in this fight by finish as well. I think he gets a submission or a KO in this fight. Doesn't really matter. I think he gets it inside the first 2 rounds as well. I will say though, I don't agree with the minus 600 favorite business. These guys really don't want you earning any money nowadays off decent fighters. But I do agree he should be a moderate favorite in this fight, and I think he wins by finish. Moving on now to the main card opener in Eryk Anders versus Christian Leroy Duncan. And guys, just a reminder that if you do like the content that you're watching and you want to show me some love, please like the video and subscribe if you're not already. I don't make any money off these videos, guys. I do them because I really do enjoy making them. I enjoy talking with you guys in the comment section of my videos, building a community, which is just awesome to me. I appreciate you guys a lot. Anyways, back to the prediction here. Christian Leroy Duncan, you better not toss this absolute layup of a win, you bastard, man. Please. I feel like Duncan is just so technical sometimes, but he then also has some really poor decision-making in his fights. You know, like a pretty lack of fight IQ it's quite a concern to me. But in terms of technical skill and overall talent and fight ability, this fight should be a relatively one-sided win for Christian Leroy Duncan. I wouldn't be surprised to see a KO as well for him in this fight. Eryk Anders, even in his wins, he has looked pretty bad and slow on the feet. He's got a wide stance. He waddles in looking like a freaking penguin sometimes. Duncan should win this fight, guys. He's got his own offensive wrestling too, but he just needs to focus on stuffing the takedown attempts, getting off the cage, and then delivering damage on the feet in exchanges. I'm going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan in this fight, most likely by KO. Confident picks list as well as an addition. Moving on to Miles Johns versus Gene Matsumoto. And a very interesting fight here for sure. I think Gene Matsumoto most likely has got this one though, just because of the fact that he actually has quite a high pace with both his stand-up and shooting takedowns. He had a very close fight with Rob Font, and I actually remember choosing Rob Font as an underdog in that matchup, and it was a super close fight that I did agree that Rob probably edged the decision due to the damage he did, but still, he doesn't stop, guys. He's always willing to push a pace, and Miles Johns, although I think his cardio has improved somewhat, he used to be known as someone who did slow down significantly as it got into the later rounds of fights, and I think Gene Matsumoto can bring that old Miles Johns out in him again. The only real problem I have with Gene is that he does take quite a bit of damage, and Miles Johns throws really hard and powerful punches, guys. You cannot take those sorts of punches cleanly in any fight with him. I don't care who you are. So as long as he fights as per normal, and this is me talking about Gene Matsumoto, and doesn't get too reckless, I can see him winning this fight. His grappling is just such a big factor, and Miles Johns has struggled in the past with guys who just keep pressuring him and aren't afraid to spam takedowns. He can be taken down, he can be controlled in his fights, and I expect that to happen in at least 1 to 2 rounds of this fight. Gene Matsumoto is the pick. Moving on to Andre Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. And the thing with C-Rod is, guys, the dude literally can destroy any top and upcoming youngster in the UFC, it seems, but he just seems to lose to the older, unk-type fighters on the rosters recently. So if we go by that logic, I should be taking Andre Fili as an underdog for sure, since he's quite the UFC veteran, but I just can't do it. I think C-Rod is just so well-rounded, and although I feel like he shouldn't have lost to Julian Erosa the way that he did, I was pretty upset seeing him get submitted like that. He is quite good, and he's got some solid pressure, and Andre Fili is arguably 1-4 in his last 5 fights. I think he should have lost his fight against Cub Swanson, if I remember correctly, by decision. I do think Andre Fili is a decent underdog, though, stylistically, and I think if he gives C-Rod any problems in this fight, it's probably early on the feet. And although he did stick his head straight into the guillotine in his fight with Melky Costa, he's actually relatively good with his grappling, his offensive grappling, and he's a little bit tricky to take down in the first place. I am going to go with Christian Rodriguez in this fight, though. I expect him to land more and not just take as much damage as Andre Fili in this fight. Maybe Fili gets the first round. Maybe he even hurts Christian Rodriguez, but I can see Christian Rodriguez battling back and winning a good amount of the exchanges on the feet and potentially finding some good spots in the clinch to get the grappling going in this fight potentially. Closer one than I initially thought, though, guys. I'm going to go with C-Rod by decision win, 29-28, just by doing more damage in the exchanges when Andre Fili is trying to clinch up. Moving on to the feature fight of the card, Iasmin Lucindo versus Angela Hill, and I've been doubting Angela Hill quite a bit in some of her recent fights. I keep thinking she's 40 years old, she's got all these losses, but a lot of these up-and-coming girls still tend to struggle with her quite a lot. She's always moving, she's got great volume in the striking, she's able to do well in the clinch, and she can snatch up a submission if you give her the chance. From a style standpoint, and just looking at both girls skill for skill, I do think this is a close matchup, but I am actually going to lean towards Angela Hill to get it done here as the underdog, just because I think she can fight this fight very similarly to her last fight against Ketlin Souza. Do well in the clinch, avoid the takedowns, maybe get some takedowns of your own, and then on top of all of that, stick and move on the feet, keep a high output, and win a decision on damage. That's the game plan she had in her last fight, and I would say literally changed nothing for this fight. Come out there looking identical as her last fight, and I think she has a good chance of getting it done here. Iasmin Lucindo is good though, and I can see her getting some takedowns in this fight. I think there's a high likelihood she gets at least a couple, but she can be outstrengthed in some of those grappling situations and in the clinch when attempting to grapple her opponents, and I do give the strength advantage to Hill. Amanda Lemos gave her quite the troubling fight by counter-grappling her and just attacking her with kicks from range. I think Angela Hill should be good enough to do a very similar performance. Underdog pick here. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, Steve Erceg versus Ode Osbourne. And Astro Boy, please, man, please just win this fight like you should, brother. I'd be devastated if Steve arguably beats Pantoja by decision and then ends up losing a fight to Ode Osbourne, putting himself on a 4-fight losing streak. It's actually insane for a guy as good as Steve Erceg to be on a 4-fight losing streak with how high level he is. Piotr Jan, though, was on a 4-fight losing streak for Christ's sake, and that dude might be one of the most technical and insane fighters in the UFC, period, so it can happen to the best of them, guys. Erceg lost to Pantoja, Cachoeira France, and Brandon Moreno. Absolutely nothing to be ashamed about at all, but man, this is his time to bounce back, really, and this fight really is a very winnable fight for him too, but at the same time, it is a pretty dangerous one as well. Ode is quick, he hits very hard for a flyweight, and he's very good at landing that big right hand in exchanges, and I feel like Steve's big weakness so far in his recent fights, or even just throughout his career in general, and this is actually something he showed in his fight with Moreno recently, but that's his vulnerability to receiving big shots like big overhand rights and big left hooks. Erceg has a pretty solid chin, but you obviously can't expect to keep taking those sorts of shots against someone who hits hard like a Cachoeira France, for instance, and I think the exact same goes for Ode Osbourne in this fight, which is why I'm a bit concerned. But listen, guys, Steve has very disciplined striking, he hits decently hard himself, and is extremely well-rounded, way more well-rounded than Ode Osbourne when it comes to the grappling, and on top of all this, if he goes out there with the game plan of, like, I will wrestle Ode Osbourne into the mat for 15 minutes, I think this is an extremely easy fight for him because Ode is pretty much very easy to take down and control, in my opinion, once he does hit the mat. But the key to victory for Steve Erceg is to do that from the get-go. If he lets Ode on his feet for the majority of the first and second round, you're fighting Ode at his most fast and his most dangerous, so we really need Steve to mix in those takedowns early in this fight. It will open up his hands for him when he does mix in those takedowns, which is fantastic as an added bonus. Ode Osbourne is taking this fight on short notice as well, so it should be more of a reason to lean Steve Erceg here. I will go with Steve Erceg to get it done in this fight. I'm going to say he gets it done by decision win, maybe a ground and pound TKO if he is having a lot of control time and success with the wrestling. As a Steve Erceg fan, we need this, guys, or at least I need this, guys. Moving on now to the main event of the evening, Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually pretty excited to see this matchup. We've got what might be the best two middleweight grapplers on the roster versing each other, if you don't count Khamzat Chimaev, of course. Very interesting clash here, and honestly, I can see Anthony Hernandez as a moderate favorite going into this fight, but my initial thought when I first saw this fight announced was actually to pick Roman Dolidze, guys. I didn't expect him to be this much of an underdog. Roman's been looking really good in his last few fights. He's always showcased some really solid techniques. Even in his losses, the man has been improving pretty well. I personally think he's been looking the best he's looked right right now. The same can be said for Fluffy Hernandez though. He's coming off a big win over Brendan Allen where he just seemed to be one step ahead in the grappling. He's also been the underdog quite a bit now in his fights, but he's still been dispatching a lot of the top guys like Roman Kopylov and Michel Pereira. So this really is going to be a tough one for me to pick overall. But here's the things that are standing out to me, guys, in my mind, just so you guys know where my head's at. We know Anthony Hernandez is a cardio machine. He will be able to push the pace really well for the full 25 minutes, which is incredible as an asset to have. He also seems to fire more volume in the striking than someone like Roman Dolidze, not by any insane amount, but as far as what I can see, he isn't afraid to throw strikes in combination and throw them decently often. I think Anthony has great wrestling. I do expect him to get Roman down at some point in this fight. So if you don't think he could take Roman Dolidze down, guys, I don't think that's actually the case. I do believe he will take Roman Dolidze down if he does go for it. But that's pretty much where it ends for me talking about Anthony Hernandez, and I'll use that point actually to segue into my talking points about Roman Dolidze here. And regardless if Roman Dolidze does get taken down in this fight, I actually think he has a big grappling edge over his opponents, and I actually think he will be the better BJJ and grappler in this matchup against Anthony Hernandez. I think Dolidze is still better and a level above a lot of these guys in my opinion. I don't see him struggling at all. If he does get taken down at some point in this fight, the dude is that good. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about and you want to watch like a really sick highlight of this man's grappling, just watch his fight with Jack Hermansson, guys. He got taken down in the first round and in the second round as well, and it was like it was all according to his plan. That's how good of the outcome it was for him just to get taken down. Like in the first round of that fight, if I remember correctly, he managed to completely sweep Jack off bottom position like an absolute beast, and he was always attacking submissions in the ground exchange. And then in the second round, he gets taken down and then manages to completely flip the script from bottom position and take Jack Hermansson's back with a leg attack turned into a calf slicer, back take, ground and pound finish. The dude is good, and I favor him on the ground in this one if it does go there. Jack Hermansson's the real deal, guys. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so it shouldn't be the easiest thing to do that sort of combination BJJ super move against him. On the feet, the man has been looking a lot cleaner as well and will always have the power advantage over Hernandez in this matchup. I think that's going to be a pretty important factor in the stand-up exchanges as well, not just in terms of showing damage to the judges, but also being able to pressure Anthony back a bit and have him a little hesitant to engage. I also think if you would see either guy being able to clip one another or hurt one another, it would probably be a combination from Roman Dolidze landing on Anthony Hernandez that would manage to hurt him in this fight. I just think personally he's got more of a chance to hurt him on the feet. I think Roman Dolidze is decently durable as well, and I also believe it's going to be hard for Anthony Hernandez to just overall overwhelm Roman Dolidze with his volume and pace in this fight. I do still think this fight is a tough one to pick. When I even think about Anthony Hernandez's last fight against Brendan Allen, although I felt like he was still one step ahead in that fight and managed to get the win, Brendan Allen had him in trouble and in positions where he was close to potentially getting a finish over him in moments. And he was in just so many dangerous positions for me. And I think personally that if Roman Dolidze was to grapple Brendan Allen, he would have a way better time in my opinion. I think he has a better decision-making process and a better fight IQ than someone like Brendan Allen as well. I also think he isn't afraid to let his hands go in moments. I think I am leaning towards Roman Dolidze in this fight, guys. I think it'll be a pretty competitive fight in moments. I think Roman Dolidze will do the better damage on the feet in my opinion. If he does get taken down or if the fight does get to the ground, I also expect him to outdo Hernandez in the exchanges or either get more damage off than him or like get close to submitting him in this fight. I could also potentially see Hernandez starting to do better in the later rounds due to his gas tank, but I do think Roman Dolidze isn't terrible in his cardio and can keep up a decent pace, or at least a decent enough pace to win this fight by decision. I'm going to say this fight ends maybe by 48-47 decision win on the judges' scorecards, or potentially a Roman Dolidze submission win in one of the grappling exchanges. I think the strength and size of Roman Dolidze is going to cause some problems for him throughout this fight, especially if they decide to engage in more of that grappling. Very close fight. Like I've said many times, guys, it's a really close pick, but I am going to go with the underdog, Roman Dolidze, to get it done in the main event, guys. Let me know what you guys think of my picks for this card. That's my prediction for the main event, guys, and that wraps up my full card predictions and breakdown for the entire UFC Fight Night Dolidze vs Hernandez fight card. If you guys have any thoughts or any questions for me regarding the card, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to respond to every single comment left in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys next time.